The night air at the port smelled like salt, rust, and old fuel. People were still moving shadows, pushing carts, men shouting over engines, a dog barking somewhere far behind the stacked containers. But Lee did not belong to any of it. He was just a boy with no place to go. He was Nigerian, about 11 years old, thin like a stick. His shirt was too big, and his sandals were half broken. His stomach had been empty all day, and his eyes felt heavy like stones. He had been walking since sunset, not looking for adventure, not looking for a new country. He was only looking for one thing: a quiet place to sleep. His body was tired in a way that felt deeper than bones. The kind of tired that makes your thoughts slow, like they are moving through mud. He passed bright lights, busy people, and loud music from a small shop near the road. He kept his face down. He did not want anyone to notice him. In his world, being noticed was dangerous. A group of older boys had chased him earlier that day. A man had thrown a stone at him and shouted, "Go away!" Another man had laughed when he asked for water. Lee had learned something early. When you are homeless, you become invisible on purpose. He moved closer to the dock where the boats rested, huge and dark, like sleeping monsters. The water below them was black, swallowing the moonlight. A security guard walked past, holding a flashlight. Lee froze behind a stack of wooden crates. His heart knocked hard against his ribs. The guard's light swept across the ground. It paused near Lee's feet. Lee held his breath. Then the light moved on. Lee waited until the footsteps disappeared. Only then did he crawl out again, careful, quiet, like a cat. He followed the edge of the dock until he found a space between two containers. There was a narrow metal ladder going down into a shadowy opening on the side of a large boat. The boat was silent. No voices, no music, no footsteps, just the soft creaking of metal and the slow breathing of the sea. Lee stared at the opening. His eyelids were burning with tiredness. He thought, just a little sleep, just for tonight. He climbed down. Inside, the air was cooler and smelled like wet wood and engine oil. It was dark, but not completely. A weak light came from a small crack above him. He found a corner behind stacked ropes and empty sacks. He sat down slowly, like his body might break if he moved too fast. He pulled his knees up to his chest and hugged them. His whole body shook from cold. He tried to pray, but the words felt stuck in his throat. So he whispered only one sentence: "God, please let me wake up safe." His eyes closed. At first, he could still hear the world outside. A distant horn, water splashing, people calling out. Then, the sounds became softer. Then, they became nothing. Lee slept. Deep sleep. The kind of sleep that takes you far away from hunger, far away from fear, far away from loneliness. And for the first time in a long time, his face looked peaceful, but peace did not last. A heavy sound pulled him out of sleep, a deep vibration. The floor beneath him was moving. Lee's eyes opened sharply. He sat up fast, his head spinning. The boat was no longer still. He listened. There was a low roar like a giant animal breathing. Engines. The boat was running. Lee scrambled to the crack of light above him and looked upward. He saw only darkness, and then something worse. Water. The boat was moving away from the dock. Lee's mouth went dry. No, no, no. He tried to climb back up the ladder, but he stopped. He heard voices above, men talking, laughing, walking. Lee froze. If they found him, he didn't know what would happen. He had seen what people did to homeless boys. They blamed them for everything. He backed away into the shadow again and forced himself to breathe quietly. His heart was racing so fast, it hurt. Minutes passed like hours. The voices moved away. Lee tried to think clearly, but fear made his mind jump. How long will this boat travel? Where is it going? He didn't know. He didn't even know the name of the boat. He moved around the small space. There was nothing to eat, no water, only ropes and sacks and metal. He searched the corners, hoping for a bottle, a piece of bread, anything. Nothing. He sat back down, shaking. He told himself, maybe they will stop soon. Maybe they will turn back. Maybe this is only a short trip. But the engines kept running. The boat kept rolling. And the air grew colder. Somewhere above him, something dropped heavy footsteps coming closer. Lee's eyes widened. He pressed himself behind the sacks, holding his breath again. The footsteps stopped nearby. A man's voice spoke, close enough to feel. Another voice answered. Lee could not understand their words, but he knew the tone. Normal, calm. That made it worse, because it meant this was not an emergency for them, only for him. The man laughed, then coughed. Lee heard the sound of something opening. Maybe a metal door, maybe a container. A flashlight beam slipped through the crack above and moved around, searching. It didn't reach Lee's hiding spot, but it was close. Lee covered his mouth with both hands so his breathing would not make noise. His eyes burned with tears, but he forced them back. He refused to cry, because crying was loud. The flashlight moved away. The door closed again. Footsteps left. Lee stayed frozen for a long time, even after the sounds disappeared. When he finally moved, his legs felt weak. He crawled closer to the crack again and stared out. All he could see was water, endless water. No land, no lights, just sea and sky. Lee's stomach tightened with terror. He whispered again, shaking, God, please. Time passed. The boat rocked him left and right like a cruel cradle. Lee tried to sleep again, but fear kept waking him. Hours later, his throat felt dry like sand. His lips cracked. His tongue felt heavy. He started to imagine water that wasn't there. He imagined his mother's face, but it was blurry, like a dream that didn't want to be remembered. He imagined someone calling his name, but in real life, nobody was calling him. Nobody knew he was here. Nobody knew a boy was trapped in the belly of a moving boat. At some point, he heard rain. Or maybe it was waves hitting the sides. The sound was loud and endless. Lee held onto the ropes to stop himself from sliding. He thought about the ocean swallowing him. He thought about dying without anyone knowing. His chest started to hurt. Then he heard something else. A sharp sound, metal banging, someone opening a hatch again. This time, the opening sounded closer, much closer. Lee's eyes widened. A beam of light cut through the darkness, brighter than before. It moved slowly, carefully, like the man holding it was actually searching for something. Lee's heart jumped into his throat. The light swept across the sacks, across the ropes, across the wall. Then the beam paused, right near Lee's hiding place. Lee stopped breathing completely. He could hear the man's footsteps. One step, then another. The light moved again, closer, closer, and Lee realized something terrifying. The man was coming down. Coming into the space. Lee pressed his back against the cold wall, eyes wide, body shaking. He tried to become invisible again, but the shadow was not enough now. The hatch opened fully. A man's boots appeared on the ladder, and the man began to climb down. Lee stared at the boots, frozen in fear, because in that moment, Lee understood the truth. He did not choose this journey, but now the journey had chosen him, and whoever was coming down that ladder was about to change his life forever. Lee stepped forward, heart pounding. He clicked the flashlight on, the sudden beam tearing through the dark room.